Commission. Today is April 16th, 2020, and we'll be conducting a remote participation meeting. This is via the internet. In accordance with the March 12th, 2020 executive order issued by Governor Baker modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law, the City of Marlborough Conservation Commission will hold a virtual meeting on Thursday, April 16th, 2020 at 7:00 p.m. The public may access the meeting by clicking on the link provided on the Conservation Commission website. Click the April 16th meeting on the calendar, https www.marlborough-mass.gov, or by dialing in using the reference phone number or conference ID number. Phone number is 617-433-9462. Conference ID is 237-828-011 with a hashtag. Also found on the Conservation Commission website. Okay, Priscilla, do you have?
So let me give, so you all can see it's still the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the process for everyone, we are going to mute everyone, and everyone who's not participating or presenting, if you could turn off your video so that it's not quite as busy. And for the people who are presenting, if you could unmute yourself. So Mark muted everyone. We can do we can mute people, but then to unmute, you must unmute yourself. So we will continue to do that. And so I'm going to mute all, and then the people who are presenting, if you can unmute yourself and
Victoria is now joining.
So if you can unmute yourself and present yourself and tell us who you are, and then I can pull up the documents that you need to use. So
First thing I have to do is I have to call roll.
Okay, that's I forgot that, right? Roll call.
I don't want to interrupt. This is Karen, but
Yep.
I thought we should mention that this is being recorded.
Yes,
Yes.
it is being recorded, so for prosperity.
Okay, so I'm going to call roll. I am the chairman of the commission. My name is Edward Clancy, present. Next, John Scarron.
Present.
Karen Paquin.
Present.
Dennis Demers.
Present.
William Dunbar.
Present.
David Williams.
Present.
Alan White.
Alan White, you need to unmute yourself, Alan.
Little microphone on you, the taskbar.
Present.
And very
Thank
good.
you.
Okay. So all are present. Do you have anything to say before we get going here, Priscilla?
No, I think now you go ahead and open the first hearing, say what it is, and we'll go from there.
Okay, the first on the agenda is a notice of intent. This is a public hearing. This is a continuation for 339 Boston Post Road. James Driscoll, WP, Marlborough, Mass. Owner, LLC, proposes to construct a 4 multi-family residential buildings, some garages, pool, associated parking lot, dog park, and a community garden within the buffer zone bordering the land subject to flooding and/or riverfront, located at 339 Boston Post Road East, and adjoining parcels, formerly known as the McGee Farm and more recently a Heritage Farm LLC. Okay, so we're going to now have someone who is here to speak on the matter. Please state your name and go forward.
Yep, my name is David Robinson. I'm a site design engineer with Allen and Major Associates. I'd first just like to thank the commission for accommodating us this evening. I'd like to also introduce our design team. We have myself and Carlton Quinn with Allen and Major Associates. We have Tom Moran with Waypoint, as well as Michael Berliner with Waypoint. And then from Goddard Consulting, who are the environmental engineers, we have Scott Goddard and Tim McGuire. If Tom Moran is on, I'd like to give him a minute to introduce himself and his company and give a quick summary of the project.
Go ahead, Tom.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Moran with Waypoint Real Estate Investments. Want to first echo Dave's sentiments about the commission putting in the effort to hear our application tonight under the circumstances. A little background on Waypoint. We're a multifamily development and investment firm. We have 5 offices nationally. I work out of the Northeast office. We're very excited about the opportunity in Marlborough. We have previous experience with development along the 495 corridor and feel this site and this project present a very compelling story to update the housing stock on the east side of 495, which we feel dovetails well with the city's master plan, as well as providing an opportunity to create economic development within a designated opportunity zone. Heading into this hearing, we've had 2 meetings with the Site Plan Review Committee and have met with members of the commission as well as other departments within the city with the intent of making sure we were appropriately relaying everyone's feedback into our application and putting forth the best application possible. So again, thank the commission for hearing us tonight, and I'll turn it back over to Dave.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Quick intro to the project. It's located at 339 Boston Post Road East, also known as Route 20. It's currently the McGee Horse Farm, and if you go out there, you'll see it is certainly a horse farm, plenty of fences, open space. We did delineate the wetlands on site. We have an ORAD in place, and the wetland resources were flagged by our environmental consultant, Goddard Consulting. Conservation's been out, they've walked the site, and we've adjusted as necessary. So we're proposing multifamily residential use with 4 buildings on site. There are 4 stories each, and for a total of 188 units. We're currently proposing a 2.0 parking ratio, which comes out to 376 parking stalls on site. That includes 6 garages with covered parking. As far as the permitting, we're seeking a floodplain overlay special permit from the ZBA. We have applied for a notice of intent. That's why we're here this evening. We require a special permit from the City Council. We require site plan approval from the Site Plan Committee. We're looking at an environmental notification form from MIPA, and we also will require a DOT access permit for the curb cuts along Route 20. We did the site drainage. Currently we're proposing all subsurface infiltration systems. We did go out there earlier this spring and perform test pits in the locations of all of those systems. We were able to adjust the site grading around the results of those test pits, and we also meet all 10 DEP standards with regards to stormwater. Getting into some of the residential site amenities, as I mentioned before, we offer covered parking. There's a pool area with a pergola, some seating, outdoor grills, some other amenities such as bocce court and cornhole. There's a community garden area, and we're also proposing a dog park. It's important to note that this has been moved to an upland area and away as far as possible from the neighboring residential building to the west. This was based upon some feedback we received earlier in the permitting process from the city. As far as landscaping goes, we've been sure to incorporate some screening, such as trees, shrubs, perennials, along the front of the property, as well as to the west and the abutting property there. Screening between our property and the neighboring property to the west. We've chosen native and drought-resistant hardy species with seasonal colors that we felt are appropriate for this location. So I think that's a pretty good overview of kind of what we're proposing. Also I should note that there is a parking lot to the east, known as the Lot K parking lot. It's detached from the rest of the site, but it is within the required distance away to accommodate the site. We're currently proposing that as porous pavement, and that will tie in to access with the site with a sidewalk, which is going to be implemented by the DOT when they come through and revise the Route 20 corridor in here to provide a little bit more pedestrian access. So with that being said, and a general overview of the project, if there's no questions currently on what I've just presented, I'd like to turn it over to Goddard Consulting, who put the NOI together, to go over some of the resources on site, some of the impacts, and some of the ways that we are improving the site. So I'd like to turn it over to Tim McGuire or Scott Goddard with Goddard Consulting at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, David. This is Scott Goddard. Priscilla, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect. So thank you again for the accommodations this evening. I'm the wetlands consultant on the project. I was also involved in the wetland delineation and the ORAD issuance. David did a good job giving an overview of the project as it's currently proposed. I'll use the map that's up on the screen right here as a brief discussion to recap what we have for resource areas on the site. There's a Broadmeadow Brook that runs through the middle of the site. Yep, right across where Priscilla's arrow is going there. And there's BVW, bordering vegetated wetlands, adjacent to the brook. There's also riverfront associated with Broadmeadow Brook. It's a perennial stream. There's a secondary tributary that comes down from the north that's also considered a perennial stream and has riverfront area associated with it. There's a small isolated vegetated wetland in the front middle of the site where the horse paddock areas are currently located. That's non-jurisdictional under the Wetland Protection Act, but potentially jurisdictional under current federal and or water quality certificate regulations. The other resource area we are contending with is the floodplain. The 100-year floodplain covers a decent portion of the site beyond the extent of the wetland boundaries. That resource area is classified as bordering land subject to flooding, and therefore any impacts to it needs to be accommodated with volume flood control measures to offset any fill so that there's no increase in flood elevations. So the project is really driven by two resource area impacts. One is BLSF, bordering land subject to flooding, and riverfront area. So those are the ones that the notice of intent focuses heavily on. As far as BVW goes, bordering vegetated wetlands, there are no proposed impacts to wetlands on the site. The two existing crossings that lead to the southerly portion of that riding ring, those crossings exist and will continue to exist. So there's no new additional crossings of Broadmeadow Brook and the wetlands associated with it or the stream banks associated with Broadmeadow Brook. What we've done for that ring, I'll just jump to that now because I want to keep this presentation brief, is that ring is proposing to stay as it is in place as a redevelopment of that pathway. It's currently about 8 to 10 feet wide, and we're going to propose to take that portion of the project, classify it as riverfront area redevelopment, narrow the width to 5 feet wide so that we're taking the total impacted degraded surface of that cart path and we're narrowing it to 5 feet wide, paving it for pedestrian access, and then revegetating the shoulders so that we're having a reduction in overall degraded surface in the riverfront area, both the inner and outer riparian zone. The balance of the project under the riverfront area standards is being classified as new development. And the reason we're doing it that way is to take advantage of the opportunity the regulations allow for 10% maximum alteration of the riverfront area. Currently, there are portions of the site that are degraded and previously developed. We measured just shy of 1 acre of the site of McGee Farm that has graveled paddocks, parking areas, buildings, etc., that are not vegetated and don't have natural soil on them. We're not counting the existing paddocks as degraded, although we're recognizing that they are utilized in a non-natural way by as being paddocks, but those don't count toward the previously degraded area. So with 1 acre of previously degraded area on the site and a total of just shy of 13 acres of total riverfront area on the site, we're allowed to alter up to 1.3 acres under 10% maximum alteration of riverfront. This project was redesigned many, many times in order to minimize the footprints and make it fit within that 10% parameter. There were contemplated versions of this project previously that were not brought before the commission that were much more aggressive in the riverfront, and we've worked internally to scale those back to bring the project, I believe, into compliance with the 10.584 new development riverfront area. So I believe they can satisfy that. As far as the floodplain line goes, Priscilla, can you pull up the other map, the one that has all the resource areas on it? I think we had that as a presentation plan as well. It's sort of it zooms into the main portion of the development of the site and shows the resource areas a little bit more clearly. As you're getting that, I'll say this: the project does propose alteration to the floodplain. That's the bordering land subject to flooding line. The way that we're tackling that is that
the correct one? Can you see that now?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you. So maybe just awesome. So for everyone who's looking at this for the first time, I'll orient you. So the green dash line is the wetlands. Okay, and you'll notice there's no work proposed within that green dash line. The red, well, there's a couple of different red dash lines. That red dash line is the 20-foot no disturb buffer zone under the bylaw. The more outer red dash line, that's the 100-foot buffer zone that triggers jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. And then those two parallel dash blue lines are the inner and outer riverfront or riparian zones of the perennial streams. So everything inside those dash lines is when I'm talking about altering riverfront area, that's what I'm referring to. And you can see our hatching or shading, I guess, of purple on this plan. That's showing our work area of new development within riverfront area. Okay, that's our 10% alteration. What we're not counting toward the 10% is the stormwater design, which is just located just south of that, and also the replication or compensation storage areas for the bordering land subject to flooding. Now I don't. Oh, it does show on here. That purple, that light purple line, that's very finely dashed. That's the flood line. So insofar as you see the purple line, that purple dashed line coming outside or up gradient of the wetland boundary, that's the land that's bordering land subject to flooding or the 100-year floodplain. So some of the remote lot is within that floodplain, as well as some of the main parking of our subject site is within that BLSF or floodplain area. So we are filling that. In order to fill any floodplain, you have to compensate with equal or greater volume incrementally at 1 foot elevations. We did submit, and I don't think it's appropriate maybe to get into it at this time, but we did submit 1 foot pre and post development conditions showing the cuts and fills of the floodplain so that we satisfy the compensatory floodplain storage both incrementally and cumulatively. We have a resultant net increase in available flood storage on the subject site so that we're improving the ability of Broadmeadow Brook to store floodwaters on the site than existing conditions. So I believe BLSF is satisfied. I believe riverfront area is satisfied. We're not altering the bordering vegetative wetlands, so there's nothing to satisfy there. And as far as the isolated vegetative wetland goes, you can see that kind of centrally located between the 4 buildings in that dash green. That's not subject to jurisdictional review under this notice of intent since it's not a jurisdictional resource area under the Wetland Protection Act. But recognizing that we're going to likely need to account for that under a future 401 water quality certificate application with DEP, we have proposed to replicate that approximately 1,500 square foot IVW on the southern portion of the site within the field next to another similar feature that's out there. So I believe that will satisfy DEP, and that will be subject to their review subsequent to this this process. I think that's probably as much as I want to get into right now, and maybe it's best to open it up for discussion and questions. I do owe the Conservation Commission a couple pieces of information. One is we don't still yet have the DEP file number, so DEP has not issued their comments or file number. Two is within the bordering land subject to flooding compensatory storage area, I'm going to be submitting a proposed planting program for that, as well as wildlife habitat study of the floodplain alterations. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to the commission for discussion and questions.
Okay, I'm gonna open up with a couple of questions here, Scott. Scott, is this a fill site?
In terms of within the floodplain, you talking specifically, or the whole site as in general?
The whole site, because the whole site presently drops off of Route 20.
Yeah, I'm going to defer that to Dave Robinson. I believe the answer is yes. I don't see how, because we're raising the grade substantially, but I haven't seen the cut and fill numbers on the entire site. Dave, do you have those numbers, or are you aware of that?
We are filling in the site. We did go out and do test pits, and from what we had before we did test pits, we were able to drop the site down by 2 feet, but it is still largely filling in the overall site, but not in the wetlands themselves.
No, we're not talking about the wetlands. I'm just talking about the amount of fill that you're going to be bringing onto the site from off-site. And do you have any idea how many square yards?
I don't believe we've updated our cut fill since we dropped the site by the 2 feet, but it would be substantially less than what we had before. Let me see if I can pull this up. I could look for that if you have another.
No, it's just, if you had that.
You can just get it to us later. Yeah.
Yes, I can email that to you. I can email you a cut fill analysis.
Yeah, because I'm taking a look at the compensatory compensatory storage area. You're talking about 34,509 square feet. Am I correct? This is the compensatory storage area for the riverfront.
So I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. So compensatory storage, I usually refer to that as the floodplain impacts. Yeah. The riverfront area would be just strictly alteration of the riverfront area. But there's just in the
well, if you're going to fit, hey Scott, wait a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're going to take and use flood storage area
right.
for a raised site, you have to provide for some form of storage
yep.
for water in a 100-year storm.
And that's all provided in the southeast corner of the site. So as the screen shows right now, kind of the bottom center of the screen, where
it's light green area there.
Where it's light green. That's going to be the compensatory floodplain storage area. So right now that area is high above the floodplain, so we're going to cut that down to bring that below the floodplain. So water will be able to store in that area.
Because it says that there's basically 34,509 square feet in that compensatory storage area.
Correct.
And the new development is 53,328 square feet in it.
So right. So, but what we're restoring is the volume, and more so than the square footage of area. So the requirements of the department are for the ability to hold the same amount of water. So it's just spread out in a different pattern than where we're putting it back.
Are you building walls or
no,
banks?
I mean there will be some retaining walls on the site, but over in this particular area we're going to cut the grade down and tie it in basically to the wetland edge.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious.
Ed, can I just step in for a second? This is Priscilla, and my comment is simply that, just for anybody who's listening, when you're filling in, they're filling in the wetland up here, and so it's kind of like if you fill up the bathtub, you have to create an equal or larger bathtub so that that water can flow into it. So that's what's being proposed.
Is now
and-
joining.
And the other thing I wanted to note was that that the engineering department and I are still reviewing those calculations, and we haven't finalized that review yet. So we'll report at the next meeting.
Okay, and a little thing about the replication area. The replication area is over on the other side of the track.
That's right.
And I think it's 7,287 square feet. What's the loss of wetland area?
Well, the only loss is the isolated wetland. We're not losing any of the
It's the one in front.
any BVW, and it's a small number. Let me grab it. I want to say it's about
Bullshit.
1,500 square feet, something like that.
Many 1,500, but
Yeah.
It's down in that's I think where the cursor is right now. I think that's where you're planning on putting it, right in there.
It's actually a little bit higher. If you see, there's a little silt fence loop a little bit higher.
Yeah.
You can see there's a little black silt fence there. It's right in the middle there. So there's some access there, and then it's kind of in a pocket of wetlands.
Yeah, because I'm looking at a different scheme of it, which is all colored. I don't have them. I have my two computers working here at the same time.
So what you're seeing on Priscilla's screen is the most current iteration.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's 1,590 square feet of.
Yeah, I was going to say 1,600 sounds right. Yep,
1,600 square feet. Yeah.
That existing IVW.
Yeah. I know I'm one voice on the commission. There are 6 others. I'll open up to other questions from the members of the board. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alan.
Ed, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have concerns about that material. They want to lower the area to compensate for storage for the flood zone. Have they done any type of testing soils in that particular area, especially where the cutting is going to be, to find out what was in that soil to begin with before they do any cutting whatsoever?
So we did perform test pits for stormwater, but we did not perform any test pits in the area of the compensatory flood storage. I will say that the proposed wetland replication area utilizes some of the wetland material that's on site. So we have not done any testing in that area.
Well, before I can make any determination as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see that testing done. Being a native of Marlborough, I'm quite aware of what that piece of property has been used for through the past more than half a century and almost a century. Before anybody goes and starts scouring that particular area, I would like to have a report on what you find for the soils and what has been deposited in that particular area, if you would kindly do so before we can come for a determination on this piece of property. Thank you.
So, Alan, just so I understand, you're looking for a test pit log and finding of the soil that would be removed in
Correct.
the Plains compensation area.
Correct, in that compensation area and where the lowest elevation scouring is going to be conducted.
I know it's very hard to try to get an idea how deep it is because we don't have any depths on these as yet. We're all working very remotely here.
So Ed, they did provide me with some stuff today that was useful, so I will forward that along. It was too complicated to send it tonight, so I will forward that to the commission. It has each cut elevation. Tom and I want to look at that too and just make sure that we understand it and we agree or have any questions. So we'll let you know.
And just probably a quick question. What is the timeline on this as far as construction to occupancy? Any idea?
Tom, do you have input on that?
Yeah.
Any timeline?
Yeah, it'll be about first occupancy is roughly 14 months from the time we start construction.
And just interesting part about this, we met with the Mass Highway last week, and they are not considering any construction to begin on Route 20 East until the year 2022. So you have to, you're talking about that remote satellite parking area that you have, and the state providing you with a sidewalk that will go from that to your site. So you can't really say that it could be usable in the near future.
Yeah, and we actually received a contact at Mass DOT recently, so we plan to reach out to them to talk through the sequencing of the two projects. So if that's the case, then I mean we have no issues putting the sidewalk in ourselves.
Yeah, you probably might have to do something, even if not, because if you take a look at it, if you're going to be using it for regular traffic, Route 20, they plow all the snow up onto the sidewalk, and it becomes very clogged in the wintertime. So you might have to have a separate separate sidewalk, from that site to your site. So it's just a concern that I have for safety for the residents. Any other members of the board?
Yeah, Ed, Dave Williams. What about snow storage on site? You got parking, got to be plowed.
Yep. So we did provide a snow storage plan, and basically the landscaped areas will accommodate the snow area. Of course, in accordance with the new December 2019 snow storage guidelines issued by the DEP, if we get a really big storm and there's not enough storage on site, we'd have to truck the excess snow off of site, and we make mention as much in our plans.
David Robinson, can you tell us which plan that might be on? Is it the landscape plan, or do you know which plan in the big set it was in?
Okay.
I'll have to follow up with you on that.
That's fine.
I apologize.
It's a big set, so it's easy. If we can sort of direct people, that would be great. So just email me that would be great.
Yep.
There'll be a lot of questions raised tonight. We won't be concluding the hearing tonight, so you can be answering some of these questions in the future.
Excellent. That sounds agreeable.
I have a question, if I could.
Go ahead, Bill.
Is now joining.
It looks like there's a swimming pool in the lower left on the map.
Yes, there is.
Is there a wall on the southerly, westerly side of that retention wall?
No, that's going to be graded as a slope down, just south of the bocce court area.
Tell me where the bocce court area is.
If Priscilla can point to it, it's just below the pool. Yep, right there.
Vito Colonna
is now joining.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is Karen. Could you point out on the map where the dog park would go?
Priscilla would have to change the map, I think, to the one we had previously.
Okay, I can do that. Let me try.
Yep.
Um,
There you go. All right, all the way to the southwest corner.
so this is the dog park,
That's correct.
and this is the community garden.
Correct.
Okay.
And while you have that up, the other little projection to the right is the wet replication area we were discussing earlier.
Okay, I see it. There is a concern about the dog park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I brought it up, the letter from the DCR.
Yeah.
But I think they've addressed it because it's as far away from the stream as they possibly could get it.
Okay.
That was their big concern was this. There is a wetland here, so we'll have to figure out what the distance is. They were trying to get it as far as 100 feet away from whatever the resource areas are. So we'll have to, I'll read those comments in a bit too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other members of the commission?
Yeah, I got one more to add into that dog activity. I'd like to also see a little bit more concentration and report back to the commission on the disposal of the dog waste. How they're going to take care of that situation.
That's if it's allowed, Alan. That's if it's allowed.
That's okay. I mean, but that's a good idea to give
Well,
some
we don't
feedback.
want, that was a very good profile that you described it, Ed, on that document that you sent to everybody on how it can migrate into our reserve water supplies for the Sudbury Reservoir.
That was from DCR, Alan.
I'm gonna say,
That was
right.
from DCR.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay. Any other members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Dennis.
Dennis,
Hello?
go ahead.
Yeah, I reiterate, like we had discussed before, that satellite parking area and access to it. I know they're counting on the state. He did say that they may have to put their own sidewalk in, and what I found out, the state is, I think they're lucky if they even get out there by 2022.
Right.
So they're going to have to do something on their own to get to that parking area, or it ain't going to fly. And the same with the dog park area. It's kind of a negative thing, really, in my book, as far as I'm concerned on it.
Exactly.
And again, back to what Alan was talking about, he didn't really bring it up. He asked about a profile of that area, what's in there. Over the years, when they had operated as a animal farm, I buried a few cadavers in there. There were never
Horse cadavers, just to be clear.
Well, not just horse.
Or animal, right?
Animal cadavers, and there was never a selected point. It was just either here or there, about just where they keeled over, just about. So there's going to be a lot of that in there.
Yeah, I agree, Dennis. That's a very good point to be presented here tonight. Thank you.
So that's about what I have to say, and I think it's overbuilding a small area, sticking a lot in a small hole. My comment. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions from the members of the commission?
Yeah, one
Bill, go ahead.
more, Ed. This is Bill Dunbar. The dog park, is that a fill area?
I think that's up. That's high up on the landscape. The elevation rises up back there.
You think, or you know?
David,
Well,
do you have comment on that? I think that goes up back there, right?
Yeah, I believe so, because the wetlands are north of the dog park, across the access path there. So usually the wetlands are the low point, and anything around there would be a little bit higher. I will say we haven't proposed any grading in there yet. However, we do propose on our hardscape plan a dog receptacle and a dispenser stand for waste bags. So that's kind of up.
This is Bill. This is Bill again.
Go ahead, Bill.
This is Bill again.
I hear you.
I believe that along the right-hand side of that and up against the sewer line berm, I believe on the northwest side of the berm, there's a lot of rest areas. I would be concerned about the dog park not being on a knoll. So I'd need more topo information about that.
Understood, and we can provide that moving forward. But for right now, we're proposing the dog park area roughly at grade there.
Thank you.
See, the way I see it is that it's pretty much out in that far corner. There is a wetland in the area. It's right off the edge of that track. And there's like a knoll. There's an old knoll that you probably would have to cut out of there. Okay, any other members of the board, commission? Any other members have questions? Okay. At this point, there might be, if there's anybody out there that is in the audience per se, has questions, would they please state them?
So first, Ed, the process that will be that the people who have questions, if you can unmute yourself, I can see that you're unmuted, and then I'll know that you want to speak, and then we can call you one at a time so we don't get barraged. So if anybody's out there who would like to make comments, if you're on the computer, you just move your cursor and that bar comes across and there's a little mic on there and you can unmute yourself. If you're on a phone line, you can do *6 and that will unmute you. So let me look through this list of people who are here and see if I can see who's unmuted. So hold on a second. First person who pops up as unmuted is somebody's giving feedback. So hold on a second. It's a long list of people.
Derek, I gave you.
Is now exiting.
This is Michael. No, let's see. Michael Brenner's from a different project. Scott Goddard. So there's a person that with a phone number, last number's 0592. Do you want to speak?
I do.
Okay.
This is
and
Jose Chanas.
Okay, Jose.
I am a butter on Helen Drive.
Yep.
Priscilla, can you move the map up towards the bottom there so that we can see the back of the houses on Helen Drive, please?
I'm gonna see if this map shows that. It doesn't go that far, but here's Helen Drive is where my cursor is, and I think you guys are down. I don't know if you're this corner or down a little bit further.
I'm down a little further from where you are pointing. However, the commission, I want to make sure the commission remembers that Meadowbrook is a stormwater run and that any change in the floodplain is going to flood a number of backyards on Helen Drive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think that one of the things that we have to look at is they're supposed to be providing some compensation so that that water can't go flying through, that it has to stay in the flood zone. But again, that's a good point, and we will take it into consideration as we go?
Because a lot of, since the surveyors have been out there, we've gotten into the wet season, and now a lot of that land back there is now marsh.
Correct.
That they're not going to have seen when they were walking through earlier because it was frozen ground.
Correct. And if you'll notice that where the flags are is probably where the extent of the water is. It might be a little bit higher because we've had a lot of rain, but the edge of the wetland is usually the sort of the extent of floodings in some cases. So, or
Because if you were to look in the backyards of some of these houses after one of our major storms, you'll see water traipsing pretty much almost up to the back doors, up to the back wall of some of these houses.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, is next.
Let me just see who's next on this list. And
Matthew Wells, he was concerned.
Let's see. Mark, I can't scroll down because I have this other thing sticking in my way. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Oh, never mind. I got it. Hold on. I guess that was the only people that had comments because I don't have anybody else.
Shirley Mazaki
is now joining.
Anybody else? Somebody's phone is ringing.
So there's
Whose
nobody
phone?
else. So whoever's phone is
That's
ringing.
Scott G's phone.
Okay.
Scott got his phone. Scott got it.
So does anybody else want to speak? And if you do, go ahead and speak because I can't see if you're muted or not. So if you can unmute. And if not, then I can read comments that have come in. So anybody else want to unmute and talk? All right. So that's
Priscilla, you had 4 communications that you would like to enter into the record.
I did. So the first one was from the Department of Conservation Recreation, the Watershed Division. They manage the Sudbury Reservoir. And I will read, I guess I'll read the whole thing because it's a good letter. And then I have a couple others. So the first letter, it says, Chairman Clancy, as you are aware, the Sudbury Reservoir is an emergency drinking water supply for 3.1 million Massachusetts residents. The proposed dog park project located at 339 Boston Post Road East contains a wetland and stream that is a direct tributary to the reservoir and receives additional protection as outstanding resource water under the Wetlands Protection Act. The Department of Conservation and Recreation Division of Water Supply Protection has serious concerns that the dog park increases the risk of negative water quality impacts. We ask that you take our comments into consideration as you continue your review of this proposal. Dog waste pollutes water, often as a result of stormwater runoff to waterways. It is estimated that the average dog produces 1/2 to 3/4 of a pound of waste and over 70 billion fecal coliform bacteria each day. Fecal coliform bacteria and other parasites, such as E. coli, Giardia, and Cryptosporidium, found in pet waste can survive for long periods when left on the ground. During the next rainfall, these can get washed into the drinking water supply, compromising water quality, which is regulated by state and federal law. DCR identifies pet waste as a significant contributor of negative water quality impacts and has been conducting educational outreach for over 10 years in both the Wachusett and Sudbury Reservoir watersheds in an effort to eliminate the contaminants. We are concerned about the proximity of a potential dog park to the wetlands and the tributaries that bisect the property. We ask that you consider a 100-foot buffer between the on-site wetland and streams and all areas where dogs may be allowed on the property. Dog waste pickup stations should be required in areas designated for dogs. We also request that any grading that may be included as part of this project to direct runoff away from the resource. According to the town's FEMA floodplain mapping, there is a substantial area of flooding, a floodplain also associated with this parcel. As you are aware, natural floodplains provide an area for streams and rivers to spread out and accommodate temporary storage for water, floodwater, thereby reducing erosion potential along the stream. Floodplains also aid in water quality protection of the stream by reducing sediment loads, filtering nutrients, controlling water temperature, and providing groundwater recharge. The floodplain in this area is especially important due to the protection it provides to the associated drinking water supply. DCR requests that floodplains not be altered for this project and that a community garden be situated outside of floodplain areas to minimize the risk of nutrients and chemicals entering the Sudbury Reservoir. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comment for your consideration. If we can be of assistance, blah, 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 or answer any questions, please contact environmental analyst Kelly Fedra at her phone number and at her email address. Sincerely, Jamie Carr, Regional Director of Wachusett Sudbury Region, DCR, Division of Water Supply Protection. So that's the first letter, and I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that or not, or we just want me to read the rest?
Read all of them into the record.
Okay. The next one is from Joel Dunkley. It says, Dear Ms. Ryder, I was disturbed to learn of the proposal to build yet another multifamily development in Marlborough. This would lead to further deterioration in the quality of life in this community, and it would also threaten the natural environment. No construction should ever be permitted on or near wetlands. This development would also result in an inevitable increase in traffic, noise, and pollution. The city should also oppose this project for the simple reason that the spread of disease is directly related to population density. We do not want to invite any more epidemics. I hope you will use your influence to oppose this project. A livable community cannot go on growing forever. Respectfully, Joel Dunkley, 22 Westminster Drive, Marlborough. And then the next letter was to us, but also to the zoning board, and it was from a woman named Victoria Rule, who actually manages the horses on the property at this moment. Hello, Priscilla. Thanks for the response. I was not able to get on the SharePoint to okay, so I'll keep reading. Thanks for the response. I was not able to get on the SharePoint link. It looks like an account login is needed. Yes, you can share my concerns with the commission on Thursday. I will be watching and listening virtually. While looking at the floodplain maps, the Wayside Apartments at 447 Boston Post Roads have 109 units with 1 car per unit. I gave a good reference to size of the 4 3-story buildings on a smaller piece of land. So something similar with 188 units could fit in the area, not in the floodplain at 339 Boston Post Road. If there was only 1 car per unit, I would like to see them work with it within the floodplain and wetlands on the property. I think she meant outside of that. The backfields are home to deer, coyote, raccoons, pheasants, hawks, and turtles in the pond. I saw on the zoning notice that there would be discussion of a dog park at 339 Boston Post Road. It didn't say where it would be located or if it would be for the residents of Marlborough or just the residents of the unit. If made public, how would you access the park? Will there be a road and a parking lot? I would like the commission to preserve the available green space left in Marlborough. Thanks for your time, Victoria Rule. And then the last one, actually there was only 3, sorry. So those were the comments. And if I guess, yep.
There's someone in the chat room as well.
Okay. What did they say?
They said, I am concerned about additional traffic on an already congested Route 20 during AM and PM commuting.
Okay. Does it say who it is? Just for the record, or I'll just say it's a chat.
It was Todd.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. With,
Okay.
traffic.
It's
All right,
dealt
and
with
I-
traffic. Yeah.
And I had just a few questions. Let me see what they were. I guess I'll wait till next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. I do.
I'm going to jump in here for a second, Priscilla, just for all of the people out there. They have to remember that we are primarily dealing with the impacts on the wetlands, which are and also the Riversville, flood storage for the river, which goes down through the middle of it. That is actually a perennial stream. As far as the other hurdles that they have to jump over, they have to go through the Zoning Board of Appeals for the impact upon the riverfront, and then they also have to get a special permit from the City Council. So it's just the beginning phase. So, Priscilla, you had some questions.
Yeah. So my other question was about. I guess this is to the engineer, is when you were designing the floodplain compensation, I know that with global warming or global warming or climate change, we are anticipating higher and higher rates of runoff and in shorter amounts of time with lots more water. I know that the state's rules on what kind of compensation we need is a little bit lagging with the science of that. So I wanted to know, and this could be something that you bring to the next meeting, is how much more compensation you're providing and how, given sort of the changes in the climate, what we're anticipating, because it looks like the bocce court will be underwater perhaps, and so will if we don't do it right, that one of those buildings and will kind of also be impacted. So I just want to be sure that we're being overly cautious and designed it in such a way that we are planning for the future. We have done the Marlborough has done a vulnerability plan to try to see, just to make sure that we are planning for the future. And so I want to make sure that in this particular project, we aren't boxing ourselves into something that, we might think that hasn't, we just want to make sure that we're doing it right. So I guess if you want to answer that now or just respond to it at the next meeting, that's fine.
Yep. So I'd say that's a great point, and I know that you haven't been able to share them with everyone, but based on the floodplain calcs, the existing and proposed that I sent over to you today, we do exceed the existing volume on site, and we've also designed it in accordance with the DEP regulations. So I think we might want to get into more detailed into that at the next meeting. Give you some time to digest what I sent over earlier today. But it is a good point, and it's certainly something that we've looked at, and we have provided additional compensatory storage above and beyond the minimum that is required.
Yeah, I'm going along with that, Priscilla. You know that they're going to be capturing more water on Route 20 East. Presently, there is only a few catch basins that lead into the perennial stream that goes through the property. There is going to be an extension of these up the road and down the road, and they're going to all be connecting in. You have to figure in your calculation the extra water that will be coming off of Route 20 in the future. So you might have to get that figure that out with the state, because a lot of the way the water gets off of the road right now is by just paved leak off, or just by going over spilling over the edge into the wetlands, or into the side of the road. So hopefully you'll be able to get some information from the state.
Yes, we'll coordinate with Mass DOT on that, and I will say that as we mentioned before, since we're filling the site up and bringing the overall grade up, there's no longer that steep drop back into the site. We also put a high point at each of the curb cuts to help keep the water that's supposed to stay in Route 20, and any water that falls on our site would come back into our site. So that's a great point, and I think it's something that we've started to address thus far.
Okay. Anything else, Priscilla?
Nothing from me. And as long as nobody else has any comments, if anybody else is out there that wants to make a comment and you want to unmute yourself again, if it's you just unmute yourself with the mute, put your cursor on the screen and you can see that. Or if you're on a phone, *6. So I'm just going to go through the list and just see if anybody has unmuted themselves that isn't part of the team here. Lila, do you want to speak? Anybody by the name of Lila or Nelson, do you want to speak?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right, I think we are clear, so we can continue this hearing, Ed.
Okay, so I'm going to entertain a motion to continue to a date unspecified. So I hear a motion from one of the members of the commission.
It has to be a specific date. So the next meeting would be May 7th or May 21st. So the applicants, would you prefer either one?
I don't want to speak for Tom Moran, the developer, but I think we prefer the May 7th, the earlier one, if possible. Is that agreeable, Tom?
Yeah, that's correct, Dave.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to continue this to May 7th. Okay, that was a motion I heard from someone out there on the board.
I'm going to continue the meeting till May 7th.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. All in favor, Karen Paquin.
Aye.
John Scarron.
Yes.
Dennis Demers.
Yes.
William Dunbar.
Yes.
David Williams.
Yes.
Alan White. Alan? Okay, obviously so this is going to be continued to May 7th. Thank you very much. We now have to go on to the next public hearing.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Ed, that was a yes from me.
Okay,
thank
thanks,
you.
Alan.
Okay.
Well, okay. Going on to the next item on the agenda. This is a notice. This is a notice of intent for a continue.
Multiple people are now exiting.
Multiple people. Okay. This is a notice of intent. This is a continuation of public
Tim
hearing.
McGuire, Goddard Consulting.
Red
Is
Spring
now
Road,
exiting.
James Moran.
Libby Levinson.
Proposes
Is
to
now
replace
exiting.
the existing
Unknown
single-family
participant
home
is now exiting.
and upgrade the septic system next to Fort Meadow Reservoir. Anyone
Okay,
here to
let me-
speak on that? Who's here to speak on Red Spring Road? Who's here to speak on Red Spring Road?
Hi,
Hi,
I'm
Jim.
here, Jim Moran.
Jim? Okay, hi, Jim.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm here, Jim Moran.
Okay, Jim. Okay, Jim.
So Jim, we're getting a lot of feedback. So if you're on, are you on a phone or on the computer?
I'm trying to be on both.
Okay, then you have to mute your computer.
Excuse me?
You have to mute your computer
me-
so we can hear you on the phone.
It's feeding back, Jim.
Yeah, I'll shut down the computer.
You don't have to do that.
You don't have to shut it down. You can just mute it.
Can you hear me, Priscilla?
That's good. That's nice and clear. Thank you.
All right, sorry about that.
Okay. And I'm sorry for my scribble. That was the only way I could I could figure out so this is the water. The plan shows where that's blue is where the water is, and there's a stream net here. The existing house is here, and the new house is here. But Jim, why don't you go ahead and make a presentation, and I can point at whatever you need me to point at.
Yeah,
Priscilla,
I
the
don't see the
screen
plan
doesn't show a map.
on my,
Oh, it doesn't show? Okay,
No.
hold on. Hold on, I have to do this in step 2. I apologize. I have to
That's
open
okay.
it and then open it again. There you go. Okay.
okay. So I think that the major components to this, first of all, we were hired by the property owner to do a new Title V system, which the Marlborough Board of Health, John Garside, has approved, contingent to getting a conservation approval with the plan that's in front of us tonight. So the idea here is to put in a new Title V system, which is right there. We did conduct the soil testing. You can see the testing holes right there. The property owner does want to take down the existing home and move it away from the water line and put it right in that new location. We were able to, it is an existing home, but we're able to, pull it substantially away, more than say 40 or 50 feet away from the edge of the water. And we also have about a 27-foot offset from, there's a existing wetland that comes down the edge of the gravel drive. So if you're looking at the plan, from wetland flag 1 through say 5 is a bordering vegetated wetland to Fort Meadow Reservoir. So that's the idea, is to come in, kind of demo the existing home, build a new home and put a new Title V system in, and then decommission the old cesspool, which is pretty close to the water's edge. So environmentally speaking, it's a very good upgrade to be able to get rid of the cesspool, move the home further back from the lake, and put in the Title V system. So that is the plan, and I'll open up to any questions.
Question, Jim. Jim, it doesn't show any lot lines on this plan. I know it's a pretty.
There aren't any. It's the Red Spring Road. Remember,
Yeah.
It's one big property, and they have sort of exclusive use areas.
Yeah, I know that. I'm looking at it, and I know the area. There are a lot of trees down there. It looks as though you're going to have to take down a lot of trees.
I counted basically where the system goes and where the house is proposed. There's about a dozen trees. But again, the benefit of pulling, a filling cesspool away from the lake and moving the home substantially back, trying to get it into more compliant of being more than 30 feet from the water's edge. I know that the city of Marlborough has that under the planning regs, and also maintaining a 20-foot offset from the bordering vegetated wetland, kind of a no touch. So we were able to accompany all those kind of desires. And unfortunately, you are correct. We're going to have to take down some trees to be able to do this.
Yeah. Have you done borings? Test pits?
We did test holes, as you can see, with John Garside's supervision. We did test holes 1 and test hole 2. It was decent soil. And again, John went through all the soils with me. I did the septic design, and John's approved it subject to conservation's approval. So he was comfortable what we were trying to do.
Yeah. Now, is this a 1 or a 2-story house?
It'll be a 2-story home, and it'll be a 3-bedroom, 2-story home, roughly 1,800 square feet.
Full basement, a basement walkout, or what?
No walkout. The grade's only 2 feet of the back of the home is scheduled to, according to the home designer / architect plans. There's just small windows in the back with a door coming out, looking at it from the street, the far left side of the home. So it's not going to be a 3-story home. It's scheduled to be. That was one of the property owner's concerns. That's why we had to delay to this meeting. That he wouldn't sign off on something that was 3 stories. He'd only sign off on something that was 2-story.
Yeah. The present house, it's down there. It's almost it's probably out in the lake.
I know, that's why we're trying to make this improvement. for everyone, and try to make the whole situation better.
Yeah. You know, it was one of those older houses that was actually built right on the edge of the lake. Then what they did is they built all the walls around them.
Right, to keep the water back, right?
Yeah. Now the question I have is that, you know, you're gonna destruct the house, remove it from site, and then you're gonna have to fill with a certain material. Are you gonna have to reconstruct walls or anything like that along the edge of the lake?
No, we weren't intended to do that. I mean, the walls are in decent shape at this time. We were just going to pull the house down and pull it out of the way, and hopefully use the existing material when we dig the other foundation to fill that hole. Kind of like just kind of swap it. They're very similar in footprints, square footage wise, you know.
Is this going to be a year-round home?
Yes, it's intended to be a year-round home.
Where is the well?
The well is, if you look at the existing home, it's underneath the deck there now.
Yeah.
So it's down by the water's edge.
Is
There's
it
a W with a circle on it.
Is it a driven well or is it a shallow well?
I believe it's a shallow well. I know the buyer, Derek, the property owner, Derek, is listening. Maybe he could comment on that a little further.
You know, I'm concerned about a shallow well on the edge of the lake. Shallow wells don't do well if they're a dug well at certain times of the year. You know, especially when we have dry down.
Ed, it's Priscilla. I don't believe that they can do a shallow well. It wouldn't pass any requirements for the state. But if you know more, Jim, go ahead.
Well, the idea here with this existing well would be to reuse it, but in order to reuse it, we'd have to supply with the Board of Health a quality and quantity test. So no matter if it's a hand dug well or artesian well, the Board of Health still has requirements, and we still need to supply those requirements to, you know, the results of those requirements, to the building department in order to get a building permit, because they also want to make sure this home is served by sewer and water, you know?
Yeah. No, I just have a concern about a shallow well in the proximity of the lake. You know, it's right down there on the edge of the lake, and you know, the cesspool is going to be filled.
Yes, yeah, it's called the Title V term. It's called decommissioning, where we would come in, pump it down for its last time, crush and fill it, and you know, leave it there.
Now, what's the timeline on this? When do you plan on doing the work?
As soon as, you know, the building department would issue the permit, we, you know, would secure the funding with the bank for, once we get the permits, you know, the loan's already been acquired for the land. So I would say over the next 12 months.
Okay. Other members of the commission that have questions?
This is Karen. I was wondering if there are any plans to replant trees, a landscaping plan?
Not at this time. If, you know, we would be, I think after listening to some of the comments tonight, that I would talk to my client and guide them through maybe looking at the well concern and maybe a replanting plan. I think that's in everybody's best benefit.
I think so as well. Yep. Thank you.
Ed, Dennis.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Actually, more like a statement. I thought when this was originally presented, the septic system looked okay. But it was originally presented, you were coming back with a plot plan. And now, as far as I'm concerned, this is not a plot plan. A plot plan of the house with grades, driveway, location, and topos, so we can see where the water's running off, and some elevations on it, which is not on here at all. You got a proper foundation, big deal, that's nothing. And as far as the well goes, from previous experience, you're gonna have to drill a well. The well won't fly, because I've done a couple down the lake on Red Spring Road, and they just don't function to accommodate for what you're trying to do. So my personal opinion is I'd love to see a plot plan that you have to have submitted to Marlborough Engineering. Actually, you can't get a permit without it. And even though this is private land, you still gotta have a plot plan.
Okay, I'm a little confused. When you say a plot plan, in my terms, a plot plan would be like a certified foundation plan.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
A plot plan, if you're an engineer, you know what a plot plan is. You put on the houses on there, the layout of the house, rectangle, the layout of the house with measurements, grades as far as around the house, and topo, where the water is going, and a driveway where it comes in, where your turnaround is, if there is one. And so this all is water runoff and all related to what's going along. Yes, the septic system is up. It's up high and dry, but you're not telling us where everything else is going.
Well, we're going to use the existing drive as shown on the plan. It's a gravel driveway now. We located that by instrument. The topography is to scale. We went out there with a total instrument. The top of foundation is shown and the grade is going to stay the way it is. You know, and that was the whole idea when we were meeting with the landowner, to make sure that, you know, we got to, you know, that the back of the house, looking at it from the street, is in the ground. So we've done all that. I mean, as shown, I understand if you want additional grading, we could add that to the plan. But there's no really existing grading to be done.
Well, yeah, there is. Then you can't dig a hole, is what I'm trying to say. You got a rectangle on here. Now, I'm sure you're not building a rectangle.
No, but it goes in the existing grade. If you look at it from the street, the far right side of the home, you got elevation 98. So the top of sill is 98.5. So you're going to sit 6 inches out of the grade there. And then you come in the back.
That's not, the 98.5 is not on our plans. We don't have any solid floor elevation, top of concrete, nothing.
Okay.
We don't have that on our plan.
Jim, can you see the plan that I'm showing on the screen?
Yeah, maybe.
You have a different plan? Because if you have a better plan, then that's what we're looking for.
No, I don't. It's not there. I mean, I know between talking to the home designer and all that, I knew where the elevations had to be. I didn't know that the conservation wanted to see them. So
yeah, I think we want to see a plan that's similar to what you would give to the building department, and there's probably some fine grades around the edge and with all of these, you know, stuff, you know, so if there are some grades that you have to chase to make, you know, to make things smoother, that's what we want to see too, just because we want to see how much work you have to do.
Right. The idea was to use the foundation and just grade into the foundation those existing contours.
Okay.
You're trying to get out of doing some work. You've got to do a plot plan that you're going to submit for a permit, not for a septic. You've got a plan for a septic permit now. We want a plan for a house permit that we see.
I will ask the building department what they need as far as a plan goes, and I'll make sure we have that.
Yep, that's a good idea. That's usually what we do. So that would be great.
I'm looking at the plan that we have, and it's a septic plan.
Yes.
Jim, this is Bill Dunbar.
Go ahead, Bill.
One of the things that I heard you say was that you're going to take the dirt from where you dig the cellar hole and fill the existing cellar hole. Is that what I understood you saying?
Yeah, we would try to do that. I don't think there's an existing cellar hole here. I believe it's a crawl
space.
So getting back to the topo, when the house is no longer, there's just a slope there. There's no foundation to speak of. So I don't think that you should bring the dirt from the proposed house location down to the waterfront.
What would you propose I'd fill the crawl space with if I need to do any grade leveling off?
I think you would just need to grade what's there, but again, that would be something that you would show on the plan that Dennis is asking you for. Second, and Karen got me there quick. Normally we like to have plants replacing the trees that are cut down. So yep. I think in the ultimate scheme of things, we need a list and design stating
Okay.
how you're going to replace the trees that you're eliminating. So that
Okay.
I would request as well.
Okay.
Any other members of the board?
Yes, Eddie.
Alan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to speak and pick up where Dennis left off with that well situation. Isn't it a requirement before you can have an occupancy permit for even after the house is in or before it's constructed to have a certified water supply, such as a certified well that has been approved for the occupancy permit, or connect to the municipal water supply itself? Isn't that the procedure?
Yes, you would need to, that's what I was talking about earlier, that you would need, you know, even to get your building permit, you need a means of water and sewer, and it's got to be attested either well or connection point to the municipal water supply before the building department will even issue a building permit. And then they usually retest the well.
Jose Echanis.
So
Is now exiting.
what I like to say is that as far as I'm concerned, and the rest of the board, I would say at this particular time, we're going to have to wait until all of those reports are in and before us before we could make a decision for you.
Yeah, but I'm not
Or
coming.
it could be
to the commission
contingent. It
for
could
building
be
permit.
contingent.
Contingent. You know, we can develop an order of conditions, Alan, and there could be one of the contingency before the for the building permit to be issued. Excuse me.
Correct.
Anyone else?
Well, yeah, there's one other thing here. This is out of our purview, but I mean, I'm looking at this thing, and it looks like there's going to be a telephone pole about two steps out the front door. What's going to happen with that?
The long-term plan is to work with National Grid and try to, they did a crazy cross-country run many years ago through that property. And the idea would be, the long-term approach would be to install 2 new poles at the road's edge and walk the wire from utility pole 33 up to the front over to utility pole 35 by installing 2 poles at the road's edge.
All right, see, that'd be something that should be sort of like including on the plot plan, submitting to us for approval.
It wasn't going to be, it was not due to financial considerations here. It wasn't going to be done right away. It was going to be a kind of a long-term plan where he would come back, the property owner would come back to do that.
So the good thing, Jim, would be to put that on the plan. So the permit's good for 3 years. We could, you know, it could be a condition that continues or something. That might be a good idea.
Okay.
Since you're kind of crossing the wetland there and you're kind of close.
Yep.
And this is, go ahead.
One more question I can ask on that. When you're referring to property owner or homeowner, now.
It's one and the same. There is a home there, but it's not habitable.
Right, but what I'm trying to say, you're saying property owner, the landowner is
Morse.
The Morse
Right.
Family Trust.
right.
Right.
I mean, they're the ones who are going to relocate the pole, or is the homeowner?
The homeowner would.
Okay.
Everything is borne by the homeowner on this project. As you know, as you said it, they lease the land, you know.
Right.
So all improvements are kind of supervised by the landowner and paid by the homeowner.
Right. So he is very difficult to deal with. That's why I'm asking this question. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I mean, I've dealt with him several times. So.
Right. No, we've been round and round with him to get to this point. You know, we've gotten everything approved. He or his sister stopped by Priscilla's office and signed so we could even meet tonight. And he's approved our drawings that we showed him to make sure it was not a 3-story and only a 2-story home being proposed and trying to be built there.
Okay. Any other members of the board? Any other questions?
I have a question. It's Priscilla. So when you redo the plan, can you also, so when you show the driveway and sort of what the new driveway will look like in comparison to the old driveway, and also the buffer between the wetland and the driveway is sort of just kind of just sort of a gravelly bank right now, and if it would be really good if we could improve the plantings along that. So when you add plantings to the rest of the plan, add some along here. There's a good list of wetlands plants that would be really nice here, and that would also sort of protect this, sort of improve this buffer zone, because technically you're within our buffer zone with this
Correct.
driveway, which is an existing driveway. So I guess that stays. But if we're redoing things, we might as well at least improve that buffer so that it functions better than it does today.
Okay, yep. I understand. I have some good things that I need to do. In my mind, I took some notes, so if I could just kind of reiterate to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Okay.
So I need to talk to the homeowner about possibly installing a well, showing a new plan. It shows the grading around the home and all grading associated with what we're trying to do, other than just the septic system.
Mm-hmm.
Show a future relocation of the poles and shows the trees that will be coming down to build what we're trying to do, and also come back with a kind of a planting plan, as if you would, along the driveway and whatever else we think that we should do to kind of in reciprocal to the trees we've taken down.
Yeah, and then the last thing is the grading on when you're taking out the old building, the grading that will be at the end for that. So what that grade will look like. Yep.
Grading for.
So the final grade after that building's gone.
Hey, Jim, just another point. When it goes along, all you have is a square box as far as the house location. If you're going to have any decks on the front, the side, the back, and things like that, they should be shown on the plan.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a deck on the second story which doesn't touch the ground. Do you still want to see that?
Not necessarily.
There's a cantilever deck or something like that. I'll take another look at the plan, but I will show all decks with the grading and stuff like that. Anything that touches the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if there are any public out there that are interested in making comment on this one. I'm just scanning the list here to see if there's anybody that's not part of this. If you are interested in making a comment, you can unmute yourself, but there doesn't seem to be anybody unmuted. So I think we're good for right now.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I apologize, Dennis. The driveway, you're going to show the driveway. Driveway is presently unpaved. Now, in this flat plan, you're going to show it as unpaved. And if there is any intent to ever pave this, we have to know, because here again comes down to watershed. So
right, yeah, non-pervious surface. Yes, I agree. I believe the intent is to leave the existing gravel driveway just the way it is, and even in the future.
That's fine. It's just that you note that on the plan. So
I'll even say this is to be used currently and in the future. And if it was to change, I'll note it that they'll have to come back before the commission to even pave it.
Correct.
I don't think there's an ounce of pavement off of Red Spring Road down there. Not a
there is.
Yeah, no.
There is Billy Peters.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I know. I stand corrected. Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm not trying to.
Okay. Is there any other questions, members of the board? Okay, there is. We're going to continue this to what date? Either the May 7th or the 21st, Jim.
I'll take the May 7th.
The May 7th. Okay.
Yes.
We'll put you back on for May 7th. So somebody out there requesting a continuance? Dennis?
Yes, I request continuance.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Call the roll. Ed Clancy, yes. John Scarron,
Yes.
Karen Paquin,
Yes.
Dennis Demers,
Yes.
William Dunbar,
Yes.
David Williams,
Yes.
Alan White.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, this is continued to May 7th. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you for your time. Good night.
Okay, next item. Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let me, I'll change the screen.
Okay.
It'll take me a minute, but go ahead. You can open the
Okay,
meeting.
this is
Open the
next
hearing.
item on the agenda is a notice of intent for Farm Road, map 73, parcel 14 and 15A. Michael Downey, New England Center for Children Incorporated. The proposal is to construct a residential school building for the New England Center for Children with a footprint of 13,250 square feet. The proposal includes parking, drainage, and utilities as well. Some of the work is proposed within the buffer zone, two-way wetland across the street from the old airport. Is there anyone here to speak in the matter?
Yes, this is Vito Colonna with Cornerstone Engineering.
Good evening. Please state what your project is.
I'm on the phone right now. The video wasn't quite working for me, so I think I can still do this. I should know enough of the plans. So
Right now, what it shows is the plan. It shows the plan, right?
Isn't that our circle?
Yeah, Vito, Bill Mazzoni's here as well, in case you need some
Bill.
support.
Hi, Bill.
And, Mike Downey is on the line, I believe.
Yeah,
All right.
he's on the telephone.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to start going in, go over the project for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Just want to see what's on the screen right now for everybody.
Is that
Get the
is that what you
existing-
want, Vito?
The existing conditions plan. I think it's sheet 2 in our set.
Okay. Yep. We can do that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right. So the existing site right now, it's 7.6 acres, and it's a vacant lot. It's right across the street from the old airport, where they're building that commercial development right now. And so right now, the upper portion of the site is basically a field. That's that lighter green area shown. And then the rear.
Okay, so we're getting feedback from you. So do you have 2 items that are giving us voice? Are you on the phone too?
That was Bill. Somebody named
Oh.
Bill. I just muted him.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah, I just have the phone going.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and then beyond the field, it's a fringe, kind of the wooded area in the back. It's that darker green area shown on the plan. And then it drops down approximately 10 feet in elevation down to the wetland in the rear. And, you know, the wetland it's fairly flat out there. It's clearly defined by the TOA slope. There is a floodplain associated with the wetland also, and the FEMA mapping shows that it basically correlates with that TOA slope. So we've shown all that on the plan right now. So the upper portion, though, it is fairly flat, and that's kind of where we're proposing most of the development, trying to keep, you know, mostly out of the buffer and in that previously cleared field area. If you want to switch to the next site plan sheet, which is sheet 3, you can kind of go through the site plan.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Okay. So the proposed building, it's that T shape in the middle, and it's proposed housing for New England Center for Children. It's a 27-bed facility, so there'll be 27 kids there, and then there's also a 1-for-1 staff at the peak times. So we proposed basically that the building kind of set back a little bit, and then the access off Farm Road with proposed parking. There's a turnaround area for deliveries and emergency vehicles to get in and out of the site. To the rear of the building, kind of inside each of those T areas, is a play area for the kids. So it's a fenced-in play area with a walkway around the edge of it. Overall, the building, the footprint's 13,000 square feet about for the footprint itself. The actual gross floor area is 25,000 square feet. So it's 1 story on the 2 kind of wings of the T, and then that center portion, would be 2 stories with a basement also below. So that's where we get the 25,000 square feet. So the development itself does extend into the buffer zone to the rear. We've tried to keep the development though up on top of the slope, and we've maintained everything outside the inner buffer zone, inside that 20-foot buffer. The actual disturbance of the buffer zone is about 22,000 square feet, and some of that area, or a good amount of that area, is already cleared and is a field today. So for the site impervious areas, we proposed a fairly robust stormwater system. Because the soils out there are so permeable, we did a lot of test pits out there, and it's a coarse sand. So right now there's not much runoff today that comes off the site, basically because it's flat with high permeable soils. So what we did was collect all the impervious areas, and we're essentially infiltrating everything. The front parking area, we come off Farm Road, that was sheet flow into a rain garden, which is sized to infiltrate the 100-year storm. And then the remainder of the parking areas would be split between 2 subsurface dry wells, and would have pre-treatment of that with storm scepters. And our total treatment would be far in excess of the minimum 80%. I think we're around 95% once you factor in the infiltration too. The roof itself, some of those, the front parts of the roof would go to the pavement dry wells, and then the rear portion, there's 2 dry wells out in the rear, kind of in those T areas. So we've essentially infiltrated and treated all the runoff that comes off this site to exceed the minimums required through DEP. We currently are in the process with Site Plan Review Committee. We've had 1 meeting so far, and we have to go back for another one, at least 1 more. So we just kind of had our preliminary meeting with them. So we are still in that process also. And we're currently just kind of in the process with the architects, coordinating and finalizing some of our utility connections and stuff like that. But the layout itself is all set, and the parking itself too. Let's see. I think that's a pretty good summary. If you want to start questions or any comments.
I'm going to start off. This building is going to have a cellar?
Just in the center portion of it. So that part that sticks to the back, kind of to the north, that wing of it will have a basement, yes.
It will or will not?
It will. So just the center portion has a basement.
And the reason I'm asking this is that because I'm looking at cellar floor elevation at 265 and first floor elevation at 279. That's a 14-foot height. Why do you have to go so deep? Why so deep?
Down in the basement, they have areas for the kids. You know, when it's not nice outside, you know, you can't go out in the play areas. They have a gym down there, some, you know, exercise equipment. They needed that extra height to be able to fit all that. And they also have some of their mechanicals down there. I believe it's not a full-size elevator, but it's a lift also down there. So they needed that extra height just to fit all the stuff for the kids that they need down there.
What's the present elevation of the site where that would be? What's the present elevation?
It's around 275-ish in the back, and near the front of the building, it's like 278.
Okay. The reason I ask is because, you know, you're going to obviously have to excavate an awful lot of material. If you're excavating a lot of material, you're going to hit groundwater. How do you plan on handling the groundwater?
Out there, we did test pits. You can see right in the back of that, in the back corner of that building, in the deepest portion of the cut, we have deep test hole 4. And that one went down, I think it was 12 feet or so. Let me just check that one. And we didn't hit any groundwater. So, yeah, that one was down just over 12 feet down. So it was down below the slab because that portion of the grade was dipped down a little bit. So we're thinking it's high permeable soils. The groundwater generally aligns with the wetland elevation.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the elevation off the wetland, but I can't seem to get it.
It's around 260. It varies, but it's
60.
Yeah, 259, 260 in that range. It varies up and down within that foot.
Yeah. You know, I'm just concerned about if you hit groundwater, how do you handle the groundwater? You know,
Yeah, if we
it's
did
gonna
hit it,
be a
I mean,
pretty large site.
yeah, so if they do encounter it, during construction, they'd have to do some dewatering, obviously during construction.
You have a
You know,
dewater.
I don't, if they did encounter it, they'd have to prepare one. Typically, you'd have to get that in. I don't anticipate them needing it. Like I say, we should be a few feet above groundwater still. The wetlands are at 259, 260, where Teleflow is at 265. So that does give you a little bit of play in there. And our test pits went down to 263, 262 in that area, and we had no groundwater.
I noticed that you have a sidewalk going around the site.
Yeah.
On the wetland side. What's the width of the sidewalk?
I think that's a 5 foot. Let me just double check on that. I can just double check it for you. 1 second. Yeah, that is a 5 foot walk.
Yeah. Now, see, the reason I ask this, if you encounter something with the fire department asking for access around the building, you're right at the edge of the slope there. You know, I might anticipate that the possibility of the fire department wanting a wider area, just in case they had to get an emergency vehicle around the building. Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And right now, so during our site plan review committee meetings, we'll, kind of deal with that with fire as that comes up. If that's one of their comments, it's something we may have to address.
Yeah, and because if they're gonna require something wider, you're gonna have to change your plan or move the building over.
Yeah, and that would be, if we had to widen that out a little bit, we could do that. I wouldn't anticipate, these are the final plans. I wouldn't think we'd be closing tonight. This being the first meeting. So if there are a few minor tweaks that we have to do with site plan review, we'd get those on there before the next meeting, before you.
Yeah. When do you go before site plan review?
I forget when the next one is.
Do that remotely, Priscilla?
So I don't know. I don't know if you're on the next one or the next one's next Tuesday, but the next one after that is the first Tuesday in May.
Yeah, so it's probably that one.
Okay.
I thought we were on the next one.
Are we on the next one?
Okay, well, that's good because I didn't do the agenda yet, so I will put you on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Because if there's any plans that any changes made to the plans as far as the site situation, you're gonna, because the building is right up against the edge of that embankment. And, you'd have to do some changes in the plans.
Yeah, yep.
So what I didn't add on the list on this set of plans this evening was the landscaping, but they do have a pretty good landscape plan that goes around the edge along the fence line. Is that correct? Goes around along the fence line on all fence lines. So we'll if you can share that with us later, that just for the next meeting.
Yeah, I figured we'd get that in with the next set of plans because it came in after we submitted. But that back slope was going to be planted with, I think it was sedge and red maple and river birch. They were doing plugs instead of just trying to loam and seed it. So they're going to do plugs all on that slope, kind of stabilize it quicker.
Back here, like in the back slope.
Yeah, that back slope right behind the sidewalk and the fence out there.
Okay.
Just a comment. It doesn't pertain to conservation, but your fence along the side there, right adjacent to all of those houses to the right of the project. There's they have a split rail fence there right now. It's a plastic split rail fence, and you're going to use that whole area there for parking. And this is a facility that will be having people there at night. And you're going to have guys pulling in and pulling out. Are you going to plan on putting up a barrier fence or some sort of vegetation barrier.
Yeah, we actually just added a fence on there, so that'll be on the next plans that you get. The New England Center, they actually requested we put a like a stockade privacy fence right along that property line between the two properties. It's both for screening the neighbor and also for security for the kids.
Yeah. Okay.
When they're coming in and out of the building.
Yeah. Is there going to be a cafeteria per se?
I know, but what we'll be looking
I
at.
don't. Mike, would you know if that? I don't remember. I don't think there was a cafeteria.
Yeah, there isn't. They ship the food there for the meals from their facility in Southborough to accommodate the kids in the morning and in the evening. And if somebody's there during the day, they send it there during the day. But the kids usually leave here in the morning and go over to the Southborough facility, and then are brought back later in the day.
Okay, so this is a residential area then.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't
just for the
sure.
record, just for the record, could people just say who you are? Because I can't necessarily see you, and some of you aren't identified. So just for the record, Bill Pizzoni was the one that just talked before Ed spoke, and then so just keep introducing yourself so that we know who you are.
This is Nelson Chute. Nelson Chute. I was in on this meeting. This is the meeting I was interested in.
Hey, Priscilla, can we go through the members of the commission first before
Yes.
we?
Okay. Yep. Nelson, you'll be next. Whoops. Sorry.
We have members of the board that have to ask questions. Somebody's phone. Is there members of the board who have questions?
Yes, Ed, Dennis asking questions.
Go right ahead, Dennis.
My question, I don't want to be a dummy here, but are these children, there's no sleeping quarters here.
Yes, there is.
There is?
They're sleeping here and they're going to school someplace else. So this is a residential facility.
It is. And you said these children are what ages?
They range in age up to 20 years old. These are all children with autistic issues, and this is a residential facility to supplement the facility that they have in Southborough for their educational purposes. If you're not aware, the New England Center for Children is one of the leading autistic centers in the country and the world, actually. And there is a need for residential housing related to them as these kids age, and they're taught life lessons and other aspects of how they're going to survive.
That's fine. That's fine, because you're teaching me something I don't know right now, which is good. But the leading up to the question was, the real question is safety factor for these kids in this thing, and because of the wetlands out back and getting to it. And I know you were talking, is the fence going to be along the back side of this? So we don't have any people swimming that aren't supposed to.
Yeah, that's it's a concern always with the kids. So that those rear play areas where the kids kind of were, spend some time outside. We did have a fence around that area that would prevent them from getting out. And then on the side and in the front where they kind of load and unload when they're getting into the vans to go to school every day, we have fencing there, on those two locations also. So that, they obviously, kind of, think that out when they're planning these facilities as the safety of the kids. It's kind of the most important thing.
Anyone else? Any other members of the board?
Yeah, question. This is Bill. A question for perhaps Alan or Dennis. Was this a fill area? Was this an emergency extension for the airport? Did they come in and fill this area at one point in time?
Well, you want to
I did
answer
test
that?
pits. I could speak to that. We did test pits out there, in the front and in the side and the back. We did 5 of them kind of spread out There was some fill placed in one of the holes we found, deep test hole 4, which is kind of in the back corner. The rest of them, although, were native soil when we went down. And the fill on that last hole that we did encounter was only a foot of fill. So there wasn't much placed in that one location.
Okay, and my second question, when you come back to the next meeting, I see a 25-foot buffer. Could you include the 20, 30, and 100?
20, 30, and 100. Okay.
Yep, from the wetland.
Yep.
The 100's here where my cursor is, so that's
It
the
is,
100, and there's the 20. There's a 25. So, and I mean, our thing is 20, so they've given us an extra 5 feet, which we love. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll change those up to the 20 and 30 though.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Thank
limit of
you.
work won't change or anything, but
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is Karen. I noticed there's quite a bit of sidewalk, and you said it was 5 feet, and it might even be wider depending on what you hear at site review. Do you plan to use salt to keep it safe in the winter?
they shouldn't need salt unless they have, we have like a severe ice event. In normal snowstorms, just plowing it should be sufficient. It's not on a steep slope. So, in certain circumstances, if you get we have an ice storm, we get a 1/4 inch of ice, they may have to. But in most cases, I wouldn't anticipate salt being used.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Any other members of the board?
This is Dave Williams. Where are you going to put your snow? You dump your snow during a snowstorm, clearing the parking lot.
So we've got down the end, say the main parking area in front of the building. We do have some space down the end of it. There's kind of a flat, grassy area down the end of that. We do have some space between us and the abutter. I believe we have 12 feet or so along the edge. So that front area, there's a good amount of space. The rear tail, we do have some space off the end of it to put some snow off the end, and there's also some along the edges. And same in the front. The only spot is, near the rain garden. We obviously don't want to be plowing into that area, but there is some space on the opposite side down there. So we have space kind of around the edges and then off the tail ends of both of the parking areas.
Okay, I assume that you're going to salt the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, they get salt, sand, just your typical. It's not overly steep. It's actually pretty flat throughout the whole thing. So I don't think they'll have to excessively put down salt and sand, but they may, put some down once in a while.
Okay.
So this is Priscilla. The only comment I have is that we just have to compare where you want to put snow storage with where your landscaping is, so that we're not, killing the landscaping at the same time. So we may have to just relook at that just to be sure when we compare the two.
Okay.
The rain garden is something different that we've had one other before, but this is a second one. The first one was down at Fay School Field. They have that rain garden there. Did you do test pits on that area there to make sure it's pervious?
Yeah, I mean, we did one. I mean, I'm probably 15 to 20 feet away from it, but so that area, all the soils throughout the whole site were really good. We tested across the street too in the airport site, and it was the same soil all the way across the street. Everything is just coarse gravel. So the whole area down there is really good. So we should have high permeability rates.
Yep.
So this is Bill Dunbar again. Bottom left-hand corner, 12-inch flared in riprap pad. Tell me more.
That's the overflow. Usually you want to have some type of overflow for the subsurface drainage system. So that's where the discharge would be if there was ever an overflow. So that's and then we just put the riprap on the end just to prevent any scour. It's sized to prevent any scour that may happen coming out of that end. But you probably will never see anything ever come out of the end of that pipe. But it's there just in case.
Is there regular maintenance on the storage tanks?
Yeah. So the main
groundwater
thing that they have
storage
to do. Yeah. So the main maintenance is just cleaning the catch basins and cleaning out the treatment system beforehand. That's the key thing to keeping these things running for a long time. There are inspection ports on the system itself, so you can open it up, take a look at it, see how it's functioning. But the key thing for maintenance is actually, prevention, obviously. So we have a treatment system, and then we also have the deep sump catch basins. So those are in the operation and maintenance plan. Those are the key things that they have to do to maintain the system.
Thank you.
Okay.
And this is Priscilla again. So just going back to the infiltration systems, I know that we are requiring a sort of inspection ports on each galley so that we can see each of the lines, just so that in the future, if there's something's wrong with one, we can always check. So if you could just add those ports on each
line,
each row, yeah. Yep. So
each
one
row,
per,
okay.
one per row.
Okay.
We've decided that we need that because 10 years down the road, when something happens, if you can only see the two ends, you don't know what happened in the middle. So
yeah, no, we'll put them on the end of each line. I think there's 3 missing on each line. So we have
and you
4.
can
We'll put
alter.
3.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? Any other questions?
Eddie, Alan White.
Yep.
I got two questions I want to ask to wrap my satisfied. The elevation grade in the basement to the wetland itself. What is the difference in footage?
It's about 5 to 5.5 feet.
So the wetland is going to be about 5.5 feet below the basement floor.
Yep.
Okay, that should be sufficient. Now, what have you proposed for lighting?
For site lighting, we did just get in our lighting plan, so the locations will be on the next set of plans. But there are pole lights proposed. See, I have 1, 2, 3, 4.
The reason why I asked that
10
question
of
is
them.
because, the residents in the area, if the lighting is, exposed too great for them, we're gonna have to have repercussions on it. So we might as well get it ironed out now.
Yeah, so that's something that through site plan review committee, I know that they'll address that through them during those hearings.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anyone else? Any other members of the board? Any other questions? Priscilla, we're gonna continue this to a different, another day.
No, I think we still have some butters that might want to speak.
Okay,
So
yeah.
let me.
Any butters out there?
Yes.
So Nelson Shute wanted to speak, and he can unmute himself if he'd like.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to say. I'm just interested in what was going on. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who wants to unmute themselves so we can recognize you?
I'm just a little concerned because we do.
Can you say your name? Can you say your name and your
Carol Gale. Hello.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Little concerned because we are an over 55 community, so I am a little concerned about what's going up there.
Unfortunately, we are the board that determines the impact on the wetlands, but there is nothing that we have as far as control as to what's going in there. It's just dealing with the wetlands, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, well, this is David DeMayo. We had an issue with the turnaround that we have this 10 self-standing condos, and we have a circle at the end for emergency vehicles. Now, we weren't able to hot top that because of restrictions with the conservation. And yet this building that you propose here is almost right down to the water. And there's all kinds of hot top there and parking. I don't understand.
Percentage of cover. Percentage of cover. Anybody have that one?
Yeah,
For
I
the
think
entire lot.
Yeah.
it had to
yeah.
do
So
with that. Yep.
Yep.
So it's,
That's one of our concerns, is that doesn't seem right. And also the traffic that's big, along with the new traffic from the airport across the street, it's going to make it very congested down here.
Thank you. Good. Anybody else?
Anyone else want to unmute yourselves and speak?
This is Dave DeMeo. I have one more thing to mention.
Yep.
We have a lot of animals that live down in this area. There's coyote, there's deer, all kinds of critters down there that are going to be forced out of the area. So I think there's a lot to consider here.
We do understand that, sir. We're concerned too. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I do have one comment that was submitted to me by email, so I would like to read that if we're ready. So it's again from DCR, and it says, "Hi Priscilla, the Division of Water Supply Protection noticed a public hearing scheduled for this evening for the construction of 13,250 square foot residential school building on Farm Road by the New England Center for Children, Inc. Although we have not seen a plan for this project, we would like to remind the commission that it appears that the wetland in the back portion of the property flows to Broad Meadow Brook, a tributary to the Sudbury Reservoir. We would appreciate the commission verifying stormwater treatment is adequate should any discharge from BMP's flow towards this wetland system or stream. I am working remotely from home, but can be reached by cell phone or through email. Thank you for taking this into consideration at your hearing tonight." So I think it sounds like their drainage has met that. I will get something in writing from Tom, but it sounds like they're putting it all back into the ground, which is the best way to do it, and that'll alleviate flooding in the future too. So those are all good practices to be using.
This still has to be reviewed by engineering.
Correct, and they are in the process of reviewing that, and I think we're waiting for them to just finalize their drainage calculation review. But so we'll continue. So if there's no, go ahead.
If there is there anyone else who wishes to be heard that's out there remotely? Okay, so we want to continue this to what date? The 7th of the 21st.
We prefer the 7th if we could have that, please.
Okay, Bill. Bill, that was Bill Pizzoni. So they're going to say the 7th. It's going to be a busy 7th.
It will be a busy 7th. Okay.
Okay,
It's
so
a busy 16th as well.
Yeah.
It is. It's already 9:04, just for the record. Okay, so we can.
Okay, I entertain a motion for a continuance.
Entertain a motion for the continuance.
Okay, thank you, Alan. That's made and seconded. All in favor, Ed Clancy, yes. John Scarron,
Yes.
Karen Paquin,
Yes.
Dennis Demers,
Dennis lost his computer connection. He just called me on the phone to tell me, so he won't be be responding.
William Dunbar, Bill Dunbar,
Yes. Yes.
Dave Williams,
Yes.
Alan White.
Yes.
Okay, so this is continued to the 7th of May. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice hearing from you, Bill. Okay.
Yeah, how are you doing, Eddie? Okay?
I'm doing fine.
Multiple people are now exiting.
Okay, there's probably going to be a bunch of people bouncing off here.
Okay, and our last one is Roosevelt Street.
Mike Downey, New England Center for Children.
Is now exiting.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Next item on the agenda is a notice of intent for Roosevelt Street. This is map 55, parcel 50, Carlos Marcelino. Proposal to construct a single-family home on a vacant lot, portions of which are proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and/or inland bank associated with an intermittent stream at the end of Roosevelt Street. Is there anyone here to speak in the matter?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, great. For the record, my name is David Cowell. I'm a wetland scientist with Hancock Associates here tonight on behalf of the applicant. I want to thank the commission for being available to turn into virtual hearings. This is great. We filed a notice of, before I go on, let me just say that we have two other members of our project team on the meeting tonight. Dan Brimser is the project manager, and he's a registered professional land surveyor. And he's on the line and able to talk to survey on the property. And we also have a civil engineer named Jacob Lemieux, who did the site design and the stormwater drainage. So he's also in the hearing room tonight, and he can unmute and chime in to answer engineering questions. So
can you see the plan? Can you see the plan, everyone?
No, it's still showing the
Okay, sorry. I have to do one more thing. Sorry, it's a two-step process, and I keep forgetting. I think it's sharing.
It's a one-step process. I'll have to show you how to do it.
Okay, next time. There we go. Can you see the plan?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Priscilla. Okay, so we submitted a notice of intent and request to construct a single-family home on Roosevelt Street. Roosevelt Street is a dead-end street. This is located at the terminal end of that street. The wetland resource area is out here, just off property to the left, as it's oriented now. Yep, thank you, Priscilla. There's an intermittent stream channel out there. So we field delineated the limits of that wetland stream. There's really no associated BVW. There was a few areas where there was maybe a few feet of BVW that I conservatively picked up with my bank flags. So that broadcasts the 100-foot buffer zone onto our property. That's the dotted line that's about bisects maybe the center of the site is the 100-foot. That's the 50-foot no dirt. If you go just out right to the house, that's the 100-foot buffer zone. But the inner line that Priscilla was just on a moment ago, that is the 50-foot no disturb zone. So one of the sensitive resource areas we have out here is that stream is mapped Zone A, surface water protection zone. It's a tributary stream to public water supply. And under the Marlborough, now I believe it's zoning ordinance and not your wetland bylaw, there's a 50-foot setback from these streams under the zoning ordinance that we're mandated to respect. So the dotted line, you can see the icon that shows the limit of 50 feet. And so we've respected that. So we've held our limit of disturbance. Our sediment control lines would be, we would survey stake the 50-foot setback, and then we would put in our sediment controls just beyond there. And that would be the permanent limit of alteration for the property. The second thing to talk about is stormwater engineering. Now, typically single-family homes are exempt from doing stormwater management reports and demonstrating compliance with the stormwater management regs. However, in this circumstance, because it's mapped Zone A surface water protection, we can't have any point source discharges. So Jacob has engineered infiltration for all of the site drainage. So we proactively prepared and submitted a stormwater report in anticipation that either the commission or Mass DEP would have questions on our design to demonstrate that we have the ability to infiltrate on site in compliance with surface water protection. That really is the project in a nutshell. And with that, I'd be happy to turn it over to the commission if you guys have any questions for me or deliberation.
Question, what's the percentage of cut?
What do you mean percentage of clearing on the lot?
Clearing.
Is that's that I don't have the percentage. Is that a zoning ordinance for
because of impacts? Because when you take and you remove all of the trees and shrubs and all the other stuff that go along with it.
Yep, that's a great question.
Water.
Okay. Yep.
So
no, I think that was it. I believe that was factored into our engineering design for water management on the site. I'm sure Jacob can contribute, but that is a good question. This is a forested lot. There would be some tree clearing to construct the house. We didn't do a tree inventory, but my approximation of the lot, having been out there, we're talking, I would ballpark 15 trees and conservatively say no more than 20. But if there's any questions on drainage, Jacob may be able to.
No, I'm gonna tell you, I've been out to the site, I looked at it and I'm saying to myself, for you to get a house onto that lot, you're gonna have to pretty much cut down every tree on that site because of all the grading that you're proposing. You take a look at the amount of grading that you have.
So we're proposing tree clearing on the site for the footprint of alteration.
Yeah, I'm not asking how many trees, just the percentage
Surface
of clearing. Yeah, so
Oh,
in other words, you're gonna.
That's an
you have-
engineering calc I'd be happy to give you.
Say hypothetically you have 40,000 square feet lot and you have 35,000 feet of clearing,
Okay.
that's a lot of open land that trees normally would be absorbing moisture.
Yep, they do. I've actually seen areas where sometimes delineating like electric right-of-ways, you'll see that there'll be wetland in the right-of-way, and immediately the wetland stops at the tree line because the trees do absorb quite a bit of water through their root structure and expiration. So it's a valid question. I can certainly find out what the surface area is. And
okay, now I think that the real serious question I have is that, knowing the area there, most of the houses down there are all in septic. And you're proposing this house with sanitary sewer. How are you going to do that?
I believe so, yep.
How are you going to do that?
I would if Dan Brimster's on the line, I would let him chime in terms of the availability of services to the house.
Sure, this is Dan Bremser. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Dan.
Yep.
So what we have proposed, and we've run through the Marlborough Engineering Department, is a force main for both this house and the next house down. We've only brought one plan tonight because the second plan we're still making some modifications on it. Jacob actually can probably talk more about the force main, but it has been, I believe, approved by the engineering department, and it's going to be tied into a manhole at the intersection of Fry and Brigham, I believe. Is that right, Jacob?
Yes. So basically, because we're in the Zone A Surface Water Protection District, we can't put septic systems in there. So we've developed a system of pumps that will pump all the sewage up Roosevelt Street, up Fry Street, to the nearest manhole on Fry Street, where it'll flow by gravity down the existing sewer line.
So is this like a Presby system?
No, this is just a system they're called E1 pump stations. E1 is the company that manufactures them. They're small pumps for each individual house that will pump that house's effluent up. And it's not doing any treatment of the sewage. It's just dumping it basically into the gravity system up the street. So a Presby system would be a type of septic system. This is just a force main to transfer the sewage into the existing gravity sewer lines.
Yeah. So that still has to be reviewed by engineering.
Right, and we've been in the process of reviewing it with engineering for probably 6-7 months, maybe longer than that now at this point.
Yeah. No.
So Ed, this is Priscilla. I did talk to Tom DePercio, and he said they are still reviewing it. That what he would recommend is if we were proceeding with this project, we would condition it that the plans and everything had to be approved before a building permit was requested, and that it had to be finished before the house had an occupancy. And that would be our conditions that we would put into our order just to make sure that those things are connected. And I think obviously the house has to be connected in order for it to work. So it's sort of redundant stuff, but it's that was his way of saying, let's figure it out. So and they may have to come back to conservation because I don't know how, I mean, in this case, for this house, the roadway's outside of 100 feet. I don't know about further down. So, and I don't know if Jacob or Dan or David know that.
Sure. This is Jacob Lemieux. The entire street itself is outside of the 100-foot buffer, I believe.
Okay.
I actually have the drawing open right now, so I can take a look at it and give you. That's one of the benefits of this. Yeah, the entire street is outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Okay. So we wouldn't see that. So the commission, we wouldn't see that. So, but anyway, it's certainly something that's necessary for this house. So it'll happen at some point.
Yeah.
So
and if I may answer the question that was asked before, for this lot, where the clearing is about 15,000 square foot, which is approximately 80% of the lot.
Yeah.
However, we take that into account, at least from the surface water runoff perspective. That's taken into account in our stormwater report, the difference in runoff calculations from a forested ground cover to just a grassed cover.
Right. So in this corner here where my cursor is, I don't know if you can see it, there's no grading. Can you leave the trees there, or are you going to leave, and I don't know if they're good trees or not, but what do you think?
I think the plan is right now that we're going to clear out to provide a backyard for the building.
Okay.
All the way to the limit of clearing there, which is basically outside of the 50-foot no disturb line. In that area, we're just going to the stone wall that's at the back of the property.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just have a concern. If you're going to have 80% of the lot exposed, the erosion control, you're placing around the edge, you're going to have a silt fence, obviously, and along with straw wattles.
Yeah, I think right now we're proposing silt fence. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me check the second page of the plans here. We have details. I don't think that we did propose straw wattles as well, but that's certainly something that we can put in.
Yeah.
Right now it's a silt fence barrier.
I would recommend straw wattles too.
Straw wattles. Do you have a plan for a second house on that lot? If you're going to, where would the pump station be for that house?
So if you look in the front yard, there's a label on the top of the building that says prop E1 pump unit. There's a circle
here?
that
Is it this?
no, up further towards the top of the page, right there. Yeah.
Right in here?
So that's, the sewer will come out there, the single unit E1 pump station, which we have details for those on the third sheet of this set, but that will be where that round circle and that label is. Yeah. Right there.
Yeah. Priscilla, remember the houses that were constructed down off of
Hudson Street.
Hudson Street.
Yeah, this is the same thing. Same situation. Yep.
But they had a chamber on it. They had a chamber. Remember that there was a 500-gallon chamber?
Yeah. There's a chamber. That E1 pump unit has a chamber and a pump. So it's just an all-in-one pump chamber and pump unit.
Okay. Now, a question would be, failure. What would happen in a failure?
Well, in a failure of the pump,
like a power failure, they don't have power. Basically, is there a check valve going into the house?
Yeah, there's a check valve going into the house, and there's a gate valve on the main line too. So if there's a power failure and these need to be repaired, the gate valve can be shut and to isolate individual units.
My question is does the city really allow these? There was I encountered this question once before, and I didn't think that they would allow them because they would have to go up that go up the street. You know, who's going to maintain them in the street? Just a, you know,
Well, we're working with the plan with Tom DePercio and the engineering department is that this will become a public sewer line.
yeah, that would become a public sewer line, so other people could hook in.
Right. So the design for the actual sewer line itself includes laterals for the installation to deactivate or to replace some of the failing septic systems that are also on the road from the abutting lots and the lots across the street.
Yeah, no, this is something new. Usually what they do is they put in a large pump station at the end of the street, then they run a force main up the middle of the street, and they have gravity sewer down to it. But this is another way this is an unusual way to do it. I've never heard this one. So I'm just concerned about the failure.
Ed, this is Dan Bremster. I'm probably the same age as you, so that's the way I'm used to seeing sewer force mains also. Joe Pesnola was the one who made me aware of this type of system. I wasn't aware of the E1 system, and he worked with Jacob to put the design plan together. And like we said, we've had it in for review with the engineering department. I think it's pretty much all set. But I think the last step they need to get is to get a contractor that's able to install it. And but Jacob might know more than I do about that, because that's actually been sitting for a little bit. So Jacob, is there anything new on that?
No, I think basically we're waiting to select a contractor who then will just run by the engineering department and get a road opening permit, which is basically because there's not really a path to permit this. You know, it's kind of an unusual situation where it'll be turned into a public utility. So it'll be approved by the engineering department, and then we'll have to apply for a road opening permit upon submittal, and they'll basically approve the plans based on granting that road opening permit, which will allow us to install the force main in the street.
Yeah. Something new and different.
Oh, yeah.
Priscilla?
I don't have anything else. Let's see what the rest of the commission has, and then I'll comment.
Other questions from the commission?
Ed, I'd like to speak.
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Alan.
I've got several questions I want to present here to the board and everyone concerned. First of all, when the engineers went down there and created this site plan design to show us, I don't believe that the two end catch basins were visible to them, and they didn't include it on the site plan that we have to review. Also, I don't see clearly a lot of the flag markings implemented on this site plan. I would like to see every one of those flags, the wetland site flags, marked just as they are shown for the wetland flags 102 and 103. But there are other flags that they did go out there and put for the edge of the site work to be done itself. That I can't see in this plan at all. It's not set on the plan. That's something that is very important in this particular site because of its wildlife corridor and its impact on that entire area. Also, I would like to see all the abutters that are going to be impacted by this particular disturbance down at the end of that street in regards to the North Branch Brook, where its location and where it's located in relationship to this site plan. I also see a 50-foot marking from a designated flow stream. And that is a flowing stream. It has been and it goes right into the North Branch Brook itself. And that all goes down into the Millham Reservoir. There's a wildlife corridor that goes all the way down to that reservoir, and that also enters into other areas of wildlife concerns, such as the Flag Brook wildlife area. These need to be put on a plan that we can look at and everybody's concern on it. And that also would also have to be shown very clearly with what their intentions are with that sewer or a sewer system.
Okay, any other questions from members of the board? Any other comments?
This is Bill Dunbar.
Yeah, Bill.
There are a ton of invasives on the property. When the clearing is done, is there any of the three of you that could explain how we will prevent the invasives from ending up scattered throughout nature to the north and west of the property?
The question is about the land clearing. Where's the material going from the land clearing?
Oh, I don't know. I imagine it would be either cut or chipped on site and trucked off site. You're talking about the woody material or the whatever cut comes out of like dirt?
After my visit the other day, I am scarred from the rose thorns.
Multiflora rose.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's loaded, and I don't want those to be distributed throughout the neighborhood. I would like them chopped as finely as possible and taken off the site.
Yes, that's a clear question. Absolutely. I know those multiflora rose well from being out there delineating and giving some blood. Yep, multiflora rose, it's an invasive species. So, I mean, I would recommend that throughout our entire property, not only our area of clearing, but also some of the area that's left to be undisturbed, that we could offer as mitigation, wholesale treatment of invasive species. I think that obviously multiflora rose, I think, is the most prominent one. But there's also some species of honeysuckles throughout that area, quite a few honeysuckles. So we can incorporate that. Yep.
And I think there's a little bit of
size vines of the
oh, Asiatic bittersweet?
Yes.
The bittersweet.
Bittersweet, yeah. Yep. We can add that. We can take a list of any invasives that are on site. Except for garlic mustard. That's a tough one to eradicate, but we can work on anything but garlic mustard.
Any other questions, members of the board?
Yeah, I'd like to take a little bit more look at when and if it is ever accepted to be done, what and how are they going to dispose of? I don't want to see any stacking of the materials that are going to be dug out of the cellar hole or anyplace else on that particular site. It's too small, and it'll only turn to mud, and straw wattles aren't going to hold it back if we get any substantial rainstorms and so forth. It's going to be a mud mess for sure. It has to be done with a certain approach to it so that this doesn't occur. That I want to make specifically clear to everyone. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. No, that's a credible question, especially on a site like this with any of the earth disturbance. Even though it's under an acre of land, so this isn't subject to like a NIPDES or a SWIP, stormwater pollution prevention plan. Yeah, I'd be happy to. You could either condition best management practices for construction, or we can propose best management constructions for soil management, erosion and sediment control. You know, anything that would normally be a best management practice under a SWIP or something like that.
Yep.
If you want to provide us with a sequence plan, that would be excellent.
Sure. Yeah, with single family houses, it's tough to phase in terms of identifying where you can put a topsoil pile and then switch it later. We could certainly mandate that no topsoil to be, you know, topsoil within the 100-foot buffer zone, that we could find area outside of the buffer zone. That's a fairly standard one. Any stockpiles would be secondarily corralled with additional sediment erosion control. Any piles left longer than 48 hours can have sheeting over it. There's a lot of things that we can offer.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else out there that wishes to be heard other than the members of the commission?
So this is Priscilla, and I'm just going to say I second Alan's comment about the flags. I couldn't find the flags, all of them, and some of them weren't marked at all. So I wasn't quite sure what, where we were drawing that 50 feet from. So if you could just redo those flags and then show them on a plan, that would be helpful.
Sure, I'd be happy to help with that.
Okay.
Okay. And then I will look at our participants and see if there's anybody here that has unmuted themselves that would like to speak.
Priscilla, there's another chat.
Okay. You want to read it?
Sure. Just give me 1 second. It says, will Roosevelt stay a dead-end street? What happens when the pump station fails when there is a high rain? And number 3, is this 1 or 2 units? Thanks, John Snyder.
Okay, all good questions. I think Dan may be more suited to answer these.
Sure. So
Thanks,
Dan Bremser, this is Dan Bremser. This is a 1-unit house. The Roosevelt Street will stay a dead-end street. Part of our approval of the A&R plan, we originally took 7 lots from the original subdivision plan and made it into this 2-lot A&R plan. And part of the approval on that was to put in a sort of a T turnaround in the next lot down that was approved by the fire chief. We sized it to fit the largest fire apparatus that Marlborough has, and that was one of the benefits of the approval of this plan was that Roosevelt Street itself, and neighbors could probably comment on this, but I think the plows either turn around in private property or back all the way up when they're plowing. One of the nice things about the approval of this in the next lot down is you'll get a T turnaround at the end so that not only fire trucks but also snow plows in the winter will be able to turn around within the easement that's going to be granted for that. There were a bunch of questions. Does that answer all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the last one was this about this, if it fails, if the septic system or the sewer pump system fails, where does it go and what happens with that?
Right. So I think Jacob had touched on that a little bit when somebody brought that up earlier. These are individual units. The E1 pump just handles the individual house. It pumps into a line that's sized so that multiple different units can pump into. If there is an electricity failure, obviously they don't work. And so just like somebody who lives in a house where they have well water, when they lose power, they can't use their water. People will not be able to flush their toilets until the electricity comes back on. But it's not like the standard old-fashioned system pump system where you went gravity to the end of the street to a large pump station that would have a transformer that would kick on, that would carry the waste up, and there's still always waste coming down. They're individual units, and the individual homeowner is going to have to deal with the fact if they lose the power, if they don't have backup generators, which are becoming more and more common. They have to wait till they get their power back on before they can use it.
Okay, and John Snyder, if that doesn't answer your questions, you can call the city engineer and maybe he can explain it better. But
yeah,
that's what we got.
Yeah, Ed.
Alan, I think that there's Alan. Let's let the public chime in before. Let them. Anybody else out there in the public that would like to ask a question?
There's another chat coming from Ann Richards.
You want to read it, Karen?
I can see most of it. Let me try. With the high elevation of Elm Street at the back of the Antico property at the rear of the house lot, what will happen Let's see if I can, it won't
To
let
the
me
rain
scroll down.
runoff. What will happen to the rain runoff coming down from that area if the trees and vegetation are removed? I can read it again if you wish.
Okay, go ahead.
With the high elevation of Elm Street at the back of the Antico property at the rear of the house lot, what will happen to the rain runoff coming down from that area if the trees and vegetation are removed?
They're not removing the tree from the Antico property.
Right, and the Antico property is on, this is Dan Bremser again. The Antico property is on the other side of the stream. So we're not doing anything even on the 50 feet of our side of the stream. So nothing that we're doing has any impact on the west side of the stream.
Okay.
Does
Alan,
that-
you had another question?
Cover it for now.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else? You know, Priscilla, we still haven't had comments from the city engineer and the engineering staff. I'm very concerned about this sewer system. You know, it's a whole brand new one. I'm really reserving comment until I hear from the engineering department.
Okay,
So
I will let him know and I will convey that.
Okay.
So we can continue this to the, May 7th is getting really, really big. But we can continue to May 7th or May 21st, whichever the applicant wishes.
I think we'd prefer the May 7th to keep this on track. But again, if we don't have engineering comments by then, we could continue. But I'd like to have the opportunity to get the engineering comments in, if they come in before May 7th, to be back by May 7th.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
There's an awful lot of people in the queue. We have, you know, we have the Route 20 East project, you know, so, and this would be the fourth one from, that'd be 5. So,
yeah.
So we want to continue this to the 7th of May. And if we don't receive comments back from the engineering department, we then bring it up at the next meeting.
Which would be May 21st. Yep.
It'd be the 21st. So I hear a motion to continue out there.
I'll make a motion to continue it.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Motion is made and seconded. Ed Clancy says yes. John Scarron,
Yes.
Aaron Paquin,
Yes.
Gold Dunbar,
Yeah.
Dave Williams,
Yes.
Alan White,
Yes.
and Dennis is left. Okay, so this is continued to the 7th of May. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right. Be well, everyone.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. There's going to be a bunch of people signing off here. Next item we had is supposed to be a draft order of conditions for the Marlborough DPW for Poria Drive. They're
I'm
not
sorry.
ready.
They're not ready.
They're not ready. There's perfectly all right. Perfectly all right. Trying to put these programs together is far more demanding than putting on a regular meeting. So.
Thanks for understanding.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is the signatures for the Conservation Commission. This is under discussion.
Yes. So
I made a proposal here.
oh, and I missed a comments for Roosevelt Street. I'll read them in next time. I'm sorry if Peggy's still on. I'm sorry I missed you. And this next thing, just as a procedural thing. So in this whole COVID-19 world, DP has been trying to figure out how do we get things signed if people are not together? And 2, what is necessary? So DP is allowing electronic signatures, but the Registry of Deeds will not. The Registry of Deeds requires that the signature, either one or many on the order of conditions, is in ink. So to resolve the Registry of Motor Vehicles, Registry of Deeds, the the state has recommended that we do this vote authorizing signature of commissioners. And let's see, did I put a copy of this
on? I don't
So
see it.
I didn't see it.
It's
let's
number
see.
6, Form 6.
No, I know. So I'm just trying to figure out if I have it on my, do you not see, you don't see the agenda because I didn't post it right.
No,
So
it's
okay,
not-
let me do this again.
it's-
So let me just see if I put it in my,
It's right there.
let me just see if I have it in here as a document. And I do. All right, so I have to do it in 2 stages, but Mark is going to help me figure out how to do it another way. Hold on.
I think Mark's taking a
I do.
nap.
It's okay. We've got Scott on. So here, this is the
We are
document.
allowed a 10-minute break, right? It's been 2.5 hours.
Absolutely.
When do I get mine?
So anyway, I've passed this by this city solicitor, Jason Grossfield, and he said this would be an appropriate thing to do. So I'll just read it. It says, on April 16th, 2020, the City of Marlborough Conservation Commission met in open session through publicly accessible video conferencing software pursuant to the order superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law issued by the Governor Charles D. Baker on March 12th, 2020. At this duly held meeting, the following action was taken by the Marlborough Conservation Commission: to authorize the Conservation Commission Administrator, that's me, to electronically sign Conservation Commission documents on behalf of individual Conservation Commission members. The term Conservation Commission documents as used in the preceding sentence means only those documents that the Conservation Commission voted to issue and sign at a public meeting during the COVID-19 state of emergency. So it allows me to sign in ink, but then list all of you electronically that you have given a yay or a nay vote. And so tonight, what we need to do is you need to vote to authorize me to do that, if you feel comfortable doing that. So that's
Okay.
where.
Okay. So in other words, the last portion that Priscilla just read would actually be a motion to authorize the Conservation Commission Administrator to electronically sign for us. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, seeing, okay, so in other words, that last portion was we could put it as a motion, which is, you know, I'm not going to read it again just for the sake of expedience. So in other words, if we all vote in the affirmative, this would give Priscilla the authority to sign for us on these documents. So that, do I hear a second there?
Yes, I'm in a second.
Okay, the motion is made and seconded. Okay, first, Commissioner Chair Clancy, yes. Commissioner Demers is absent. Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Scarron.
Yes.
Commissioner Paquin.
Yes.
Commissioner Dunbar.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that is 6 in the affirmative. The motion is passed. So Priscilla, you will have the authority from this point on.
Okay.
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 Okay, let's go on, you know, with the time draws close. A letter from the DCR about the dog park we've heard from. The letter from the Wood Environmental Infrastructure for Vegetation Management Plan for CSX Transportation was in your packet. And those I don't think we have to discuss. And then we have our next meeting schedules for May 7th and May 21st. Is there anything else that you'd like to take up this evening?
No, I'm good.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Priscilla, I was wondering if you had heard when that meeting will be postponed to the MDAR meeting for the right-of-way management that was normally to be held on the 24th of April?
I have not heard. So
it's not on their website, oddly enough. It's as though they're still going to have that meeting.
On the April 24th?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can look into that. So
I just didn't know if you had heard. So
I haven't. If you want to send me, it was just on their site. Did you have a link to it or not?
I don't have it open, but I can send it.
Okay, just send it to me. That would be great.
Okay. Anything else that you want to take up this evening before we all get in our vehicles and leave?
Excuse me, and Priscilla, are either you or Sue in the office, or are you on the road anywhere tomorrow? What's your schedule?
I'm in the office tomorrow, and I have one site visit already, so I can be on the road.
I have an envelope I have to drop off to you. I didn't know if I could catch up to you on the road or at the city.
Okay, there's also a drop box in the front and the back of the building and of the city hall, so you can drop it into the box and it gets looked at twice a day. So the stuff comes, so you can do it that way too.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn out there?
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Okay, it's been seconded. All in favor? First, we go with Commissioner Clancy, yes. Commissioner White,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Aquin,
Yes.
Dunbar,
Karen's
Yes.
scared, whatever.
Williams.
I voted for you.
Yes.
Okay, that's six votes in the affirmative. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Amen.